I still remember the sting of the champagne splash on my dress. Sticky, cold, humiliating. My brother, Ethan, stood in front of 50 guests, smiling like he'd just won the lottery. "Everyone," he announced, raising his glass. "I'm proud to say Grandpa left me the vacation home." The crowd clapped. Cameras flashed. I stood frozen, glass trembling in my hand. That house wasn't just property. It was Grandpa's promise. He'd told me countless times, "You'll keep it in the family, Joe." But now Ethan was basking in applause, pretending I didn't exist. Something inside me cracked. Because 2 weeks earlier, I had helped Grandpa finalize his will. And I knew he hadn't left the house to Ethan. And that night I decided, if my brother wanted to play dirty, I'd show him how truth feels when it bites back. I can still hear the laughter echoing off the marble walls. Polite, hollow, cruel. Ethan had always loved attention, but that night he glowed under it. Every camera flash caught his grin, every cheer fed his ego. He'd invited me saying, "You have to come, Joe. Family wouldn't feel right without you." I'd believed him. The housewarming was supposed to be a celebration. His new home, a fresh start after Grandpa's funeral. I even brought a bottle of Grandpa's favorite wine, thinking it would make him smile. But from the moment I walked in, something felt staged. The chandelier light hit rows of polished glasses. Guests in designer clothes whispered behind champagne flutes. And when Ethan spotted me across the room, his smile flickered. Not warm, not brotherly. More like a performer spotting an unwanted critic. He hugged me quickly, his cologne sharp. "Glad you made it," he said, eyes darting to the crowd. "Of course," I replied, forcing a smile. "I wouldn't miss it." He didn't notice I was wearing the necklace Grandpa had given me, the same one Ethan said looked too old-fashioned. "Come on," he said. "I've got a big announcement later." Something in his tone made me pause. "Announcement?" He winked. "You'll see." For the next hour I mingled awkwardly, answering questions from strangers who all seemed to know too much. "Your brother's really doing well for himself." He mentioned a family property. "You must be proud." My stomach twisted. A family property. Before I could ask, Ethan tapped his glass. The chatter hushed. Everyone turned. He stood in front of the massive fireplace, the light from the chandelier glinting off his watch. "I want to thank you all for being here," he said smoothly. "This house means more than success. It's a symbol of legacy. And speaking of legacy," he grinned, "I have incredible news. As some of you know, our beloved grandfather left behind his lakeside vacation home. After legal review, I'm honored to say." He paused dramatically, letting the tension rise. "Grandpa chose me to inherit it." Applause erupted. Glasses clinked. Cameras flashed. I stood there frozen, my heart pounding. "What?" My breath caught in my throat. I looked around for a sign, a smirk, a hint that this was some cruel joke. But everyone was congratulating him. That house wasn't just property. It was Grandpa's sanctuary, where we spent every summer fishing, where Grandma's piano still stood, where Grandpa used to say, "You'll take care of this place one day, Joe." I'd helped him fix the roof last year. I'd painted the porch myself. Now Ethan was laughing with guests, already telling stories about renovation plans. I felt my throat tighten. I couldn't breathe. Mara, his fiancée, walked past me, smiling politely. "You must be thrilled for Ethan," she said. I managed a whisper. "Thrilled." The crowd circled him like bees around honey. My hands trembled as I set down my glass. The sound of champagne fizzing drowned out the ache in my chest. Grandpa's voice echoed in my memory. "Keep it in the family, Joe. Promise me." I stumbled toward the exit, blinking back tears. Before I reached the door, someone caught my arm. It was Aunt Lillian, Grandpa's sister, quiet and sharp-eyed. She looked around to make sure no one was watching, then leaned close. "Don't believe a word of it," she whispered. "Your brother's lying." I stared at her, stunned. "What do you mean?" She squeezed my hand. Come see me tomorrow morning. I'll explain everything." Then she disappeared back into the crowd, leaving me in the doorway with my heart in my throat and a single thought echoing in my head. If Ethan was lying about Grandpa's will, what else had he done? I didn't sleep that night. Aunt Lillian's words played in my head like a broken record. "Your brother's lying." By morning I looked like a ghost. Red eyes, tangled hair, coffee shaking in my hand. I drove across town to Aunt Lillian's small cottage by the bay. She was waiting on the porch, already brewing tea. She didn't waste time. "Your grandfather told me months before he passed that the lake house was meant for you." My throat tightened. "Then how did Ethan?" She raised a hand. "Because Ethan changed things." She went inside and came back with a folder. Faded manila, corners bent. "These are copies of the original drafts of your grandfather's will. He asked me to keep them safe. The lawyer handling his estate, your brother's old friend Eric, took over after Grandpa's stroke. But something changed right after that." I scanned the papers. Grandpa's handwriting. Neat, slanted, familiar. It clearly said, "To my granddaughter Joelle, I leave my lakeside property to remain in the family's care." Tears stung my eyes. Then how could Ethan stand there and lie like that? Aunt Lillian sighed. "Money makes people unrecognizable." She told me Ethan had visited Grandpa frequently during his final month, alone. He claimed it was to help with errands. But after each visit, Grandpa seemed quieter, weaker, uneasy. "He loved you," Aunt Lillian said. "He told me he was proud you'd stay close to home. But after that last week, he said he was tired, like something had been decided for him." I looked up. "Do you think Ethan?" "I think Ethan convinced him to sign something he didn't understand." The words hit me like ice water. Manipulation, coercion, fraud. Aunt Lillian handed me a small voice recorder. "He left this by mistake. You might want to listen." Press play. Grandpa's voice, faint but clear, filled the room. "We'll finish the paperwork next week, Joe. I'm glad it'll stay yours." My chest ached. That was recorded just days before he passed. I looked at Aunt Lillian, my voice breaking. "Then Ethan forged it." She nodded grimly. "The new lawyer, Eric, won't share the final will. He says it's confidential." But confidential to who? I knew what I had to do. When I left her house, the fog hung low over the water. Grandpa always said fog was nature's way of hiding truth until you're ready to see it. I was ready now. The lake cabin hadn't changed since the funeral. Dusty picture frames, cold fireplace, the faint smell of cedar and old books. Every board creaked beneath my feet as I searched drawers, boxes, even under floorboards. Grandpa never trusted digital files. He believed real things should be touched to be true. After hours, I found a small wooden box behind the old piano. Inside was an unsigned draft of Grandpa's will, identical to Aunt Lillian's copy, except for one note scrawled in the corner. "Change of witness. Ask Eric Cole to notarize." Eric, Ethan's college friend. My stomach dropped. I snapped pictures of everything. Then I found an envelope addressed to my Joe. It wasn't sealed. Inside, Grandpa's neat handwriting again. "If something happens and you feel cheated, trust your instincts. The truth always leaves fingerprints." Tears blurred my vision. I whispered, "I promise, Grandpa. I'll find them." I returned home shaking. My phone buzzed, a text from Ethan. "Hope you're not taking this inheritance thing too seriously. Grandpa wanted peace, not drama." Drama. He stole the last thing Grandpa loved, and now he wanted me quiet. That night I called Eric. He answered hesitantly. "Eric, it's Joelle. We need to talk about Grandpa's will." Long pause. "Joe, please don't drag me into this. You were the witness. You notarized it, right? I can't discuss client matters." "Eric, did Ethan ask you to change something?" Silence. Then, "I have to go." Blick. But his tone gave him away. He knew something. I sat there in the dark, shaking with fury and disbelief. Grandpa trusted us both. Ethan turned that trust into a weapon. The next morning I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. Meet me at the Oak Cafe. Noon. Don't tell anyone. It was signed, you see. The Oak Cafe was half empty, sunlight streaking through dusty blinds. I spotted Eric immediately, sweating, pale, eyes darting around like a man waiting for a ghost. Eric, I said, sliding into the booth. You texted me. He rubbed his temples. I shouldn't have. If Ethan finds out, I'm done. Then tell me now, before he ruins both of us. He hesitated, then whispered. He paid me. 50 grand. My jaw dropped. For what? To redate the will. After your grandfather died. My stomach turned. He forged it. Eric nodded, shaking. He said it was to simplify things. He had a fake letterhead printed, forged the signature, and asked me to notarize it. I thought it was legal. I didn't realize. I pulled out my phone and pressed record. Say that again, I demanded. He swallowed. Ethan forged your grandfather's signature and bribed me to witness it. I stared at him, trembling. Do you have proof? He hesitated. He wired the money to my student loan account. I still have the receipt. That was it, the smoking gun. Before I could speak, the bell above the cafe door chimed. I looked up. Ethan's fiancée, Mara, stood there, frozen. Her eyes widened as she saw us. She turned and hurried out. Eric's face went pale. He'll know. Let him, I said. He's about to lose everything. He came at night. I was on the couch, headphones on, editing the recording when pounding shook my door. I opened it, and there he was. Ethan. He pushed past me, furious. You met with Eric. I stayed calm. Yes. And he told me everything. He laughed coldly. Everything. You think you have something that'll hold up in court. You're pathetic, Joelle. My heart raced. I have his confession recorded. The receipt. The draft. Grandpa's own voice. For the first time his confidence faltered. You're bluffing. Try me. He took a step closer, lowering his voice. Listen, you always wanted to be the hero, didn't you? Fine. But heroes don't win. They get crushed. Take the check and walk away. He pulled out an envelope and threw it on my counter. I opened it. A check for $250,000. I tore it in half. You can't buy what doesn't belong to you. He smirked. You'll regret this. Not as much as you will. He glared at me, breathing hard. You always thought you were better than me. No, I said quietly. I thought you were family. He turned, slamming the door so hard it rattled the frame. My hands shook, but my mind was clear. I grabbed my phone and called Aunt Lillian. It's time. I'm taking this to the police. The next morning I walked to my car and froze. Every tire was slashed. A note sat under the wiper blade. Drop it, or you'll lose more than the house. My blood ran cold. The note on my windshield trembled in my shaking hand. Drop it, or you'll lose more than the house. The words burned into my mind as I stood there in the cold morning light. Ethan wasn't just scared. He was desperate. Desperate men do dangerous things. I drove straight to Aunt Lillian's house, my tires whining against the asphalt. She saw the fear in my eyes before I even spoke. Joe, she said, ushering me in. You need help. Not family help. Legal help. That's how I met Linda Vargas, a probate attorney Aunt Lillian had known for years. Small, sharp-eyed, and calm in a way that made you believe she'd seen every kind of lie. She listened without interrupting as I told her everything. Ethan's announcement, the forged will, Eric's confession, the threats. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair, tapping a pen against her notepad. This isn't just inheritance fraud, she said finally. It's a criminal offense. Forgery, coercion, falsification of legal documents. I swallowed hard. So I can win. She smiled faintly. If we can prove it, absolutely. But Ethan will fight. And if he has contacts in the probate office, We'll need to expose those too. Linda's confidence steadied me. For the first time since that humiliating night at the housewarming, I felt like maybe I wasn't powerless anymore. She asked for everything: the recording from Eric, Grandpa's voice memo, Aunt Lillian's copies, even photos of the draft will I'd found at the cabin. When I handed over my phone with Eric's confession, she raised an eyebrow. "You have good instincts," she said. "Never underestimate the power of proof." We spent hours piecing everything together. Every date, every email, every message Ethan had sent. Then, as Linda scrolled through property records on her laptop, her face darkened. "Joelle," she said slowly, "do you know when your grandfather passed?" "February 12th. She turned the screen toward me. "The property transfer to your brother's name was filed on February 13th, the day after the funeral." I blinked, stunned. "That's impossible. The will wasn't even read until the next week." "Exactly," she said. "He couldn't have legally owned it yet. This was premeditated." Her words sent chills down my spine. Ethan hadn't just manipulated Grandpa's last days. He'd been planning this for months. Linda clicked her pen. "We'll need to request an audit of the signature verification logs. If someone in the court registry pushed this through for him, we'll find them." Felt my pulse quicken. "You think he bribed someone? Or blackmailed them?" Either way, he didn't do it alone. That evening, I returned home exhausted but strangely hopeful. For the first time in weeks, I saw a path forward. Still, as I unlocked my door, my phone buzzed. New message. Unknown number. "You really don't learn, do you?" No signature this time. Just a blurry photo of Aunt Lillian's house. My hands went cold. I called her immediately. She picked up, calm but firm. "I'm fine, Joe. Don't let him scare you. That's what bullies do when they're losing." But fear sat in my chest like a stone. Ethan had crossed every line. The next day, Linda filed an injunction preventing Ethan from selling or modifying the property until the case was settled. He must have gotten the notice quickly because within hours my phone rang again. It was Ethan. "Really?" he sneered. "Dragging our family into court. Grandpa would be disgusted." "No, Ethan," I said, voice steady. "He'd be proud that I finally stood up to you." "Keep telling yourself that," he snapped. "When this is over, you'll have nothing." He hung up before I could answer. But he was wrong. I already had something, the truth. And the truth was about to make him choke on every lie he'd built his kingdom with. Later that night, Linda called with an update. "I traced the property filing ID," she said. "It was approved by a clerk named Martin Dean. He's worked at the registry for 20 years. And get this, he's Ethan's godfather." My heart pounded. So he helped him. Looks like it. I filed for subpoena access. If Martin touched that file, we'll know by tomorrow. I sat in silence, gripping the phone. My mind replayed Ethan's smirk at the housewarming. His smug toast, the champagne splash, the applause, all built on a lie. And tomorrow, the cracks in that lie would finally start to show. When I hung up, I looked out at the dark street. The shadows seemed less heavy now. Because I knew something Ethan didn't. I wasn't alone anymore. Morning came with a thunderstorm, fitting somehow. I drove to Linda's office with rain pounding the windshield, feeling like the sky itself was finally done staying quiet. When I walked in, Linda looked up from her desk, eyes bright with purpose. "We got it," she said, sliding a folder toward me. "The clerk, Martin Dean. He processed Ethan's transfer illegally. No court approval, no signature verification, no probate clearance." My heart thudded. "So Ethan bribed him." She nodded. "Or coerced him. Either way, it's criminal." Linda reached into a second folder and pulled out a flash drive. "Inside here are the audio recordings Eric sent this morning. He's turned himself in, and he's ready to testify." Blinked. "He what?" "Guilt finally won," she said softly. "Listen to this." She pressed play on her computer. Ethan's voice filled the room, calm and calculating. "You'll redate it, Eric. No one checks those things. Joe's too soft to question it. Then a laugh Ethan's made my skin crawl. I sat back, shaking my head. He really thought I'd never fight back. Linda smiled faintly. Well, he underestimated the wrong woman. By noon, the case was officially filed. Ethan was served with a court summons, and within hours, word began to spread. By evening, it was everywhere. Local man under investigation for forging late grandfather's will. Vacation home inheritance dispute turns criminal. Reporters showed up outside his gated house. Mara, his fiancée, deleted her social media accounts. That night I got a call from Ethan. "Congratulations," he said bitterly. "You've destroyed your own brother." Took a breath. "No, Ethan. You did that when you decided greed was worth more than blood." He went silent for a long time before saying almost brokenly, "You always were Grandpa's favorite." Then he hung up. The next day Linda and I walked into mediation. Ethan was already there. Hair disheveled, dark circles under his eyes, the confident smirk replaced by exhaustion. When the judge asked if either side wanted to submit new evidence, Linda stood. "Yes, Your Honor. Exhibit 4. A verified audio recording of Mr. Ethan Rhodes admitting to document falsification." The courtroom went silent as Ethan's voice played. He looked down, jaw tight, hands trembling. When it ended, the judge sighed. "We'll reconvene for sentencing." As we walked out, I met Ethan's eyes one last time. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. Because for the first time in his life, he couldn't talk his way out. The day after the hearing, everything felt strangely quiet. No calls from lawyers, no media buzz, no adrenaline. Just silence. Heavy and uncomfortable. Then, around 9 p.m., someone knocked on my door. When I opened it, Ethan was standing there, rain-soaked, trembling, eyes red. "I didn't know where else to go," he said, voice cracking. Froze. "You shouldn't be here." "I know. I wanted to say I'm sorry." He looked smaller somehow. The man who once bragged about his success now just a broken shadow. "I didn't mean for it to go that far," he said. "I thought, if I had the house, maybe people would finally respect me. Grandpa always looked at you like you were perfect." His words cut deeper than I expected. "Ethan," I whispered, "respect isn't earned by stealing someone else's future." He wiped his face, nodding. "You're right. I deserve what's coming." For a long moment we just stood there in the doorway, listening to the rain. Then I said softly, "You should turn yourself in." "I already did," he murmured. "My lawyer called Linda." I confessed. He looked around my apartment, the same one I'd nearly lost when he took everything. "You did what I couldn't. You stood up for Grandpa. You stood up for yourself." When he left, I sank to the floor, tears streaming down my face. Not out of pity, but out of release. The fight was finally ending. Days later, the court restored full ownership of the lake house to me. The first time I walked through the door again, sunlight danced on the old floorboards, and the air smelled like cedar and salt water, just like when Grandpa was alive. I sat on the porch watching the lake shimmer and whispered, "It's safe now, Grandpa. You can rest." Behind me, the wind rustled through the trees like an answer. I didn't feel like a winner, just someone who finally stopped losing. And for the first time in a long time I felt peace. The lake house had always felt alive, even in silence. Every creak of the wood, every flicker of light through the old windows felt like Grandpa still lingered there, watching, approving. The court's ruling had been finalized a week ago. The property was officially, legally mine. And yet, as I unlocked the door for the first time since that horrible day at Ethan's housewarming, I didn't feel triumphant. I just felt heavy. I walked through each room slowly, running my fingers along the furniture, remembering every moment. Grandpa teaching me to play chess. The sound of his laugh when I burned my first attempt at pancakes. The way he'd say, "Homes remember kindness, Joe. That's why this one always smiles." But now the house was quiet, patient, like it was waiting for something. I started cleaning. Dust had gathered on every surface. The piano, Grandma's old one, still sat by the window. I pressed one key, it rang slightly out of tune, but the sound made me smile. In the living room, I found the box of photo albums Grandpa had kept. Between one of the pages was an envelope marked simply, "For Joe." My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a letter, written in Grandpa's familiar, careful handwriting. "My dear Joe, if you're reading this, it means life has unfolded in ways I couldn't predict. I know how much you love this home, but I didn't leave it to you because of that love alone. I left it to you because you understand what it means to protect something sacred. Not just walls and furniture, but memories, truth, and family. Ethan has always wanted more than what he had. I hoped one day he'd find peace, not through possession but purpose. If he ever hurts you, forgive him before the world does. Anger can destroy even an honest heart. Don't let this inheritance become a curse. Let it be a lesson, that what's built on lies always collapses, but what's built on love endures. With all my pride, Grandpa." Tears blurred the ink until the words became waves on paper. I pressed the letter to my chest and sank onto the couch. All this time I had been so focused on justice, on proving Ethan wrong, that I hadn't stopped to feel what Grandpa was really trying to teach me. This wasn't about winning. It was about preserving decency in a world that forgot what it meant to be good. That evening, I took the letter to the porch and watched the sun melt into the lake, the same golden light that used to make Grandpa smile. I read the letter aloud, as if saying it might somehow reach him. The breeze rustled the trees, and I swear for a moment I heard his voice. "You did good, kiddo." Later that night, Aunt Lillian visited with a box of old things she'd found while sorting through Grandpa's papers. Inside was a small brass key. "What's this for?" I asked. She smiled knowingly. "Look under the floorboard in his study." I hurried inside, pried open the old plank under the rug, and found a small metal safe. Inside were photographs, handwritten notes, and one more envelope, this one sealed. It was addressed to Ethan and Joelle. Aunt Lillian and I sat side by side as I opened it. "My grandchildren, if you ever find yourselves divided, I want you to remember one thing. Family doesn't fail, people do. And people can learn. Share what I've left you. Not the property but the responsibility. Take care of each other when I no longer can." Aunt Lillian's voice cracked. "He always believed Ethan would find his way back." I nodded, tears sliding down my cheeks. "So do I." The next morning I called Ethan. He was still waiting for sentencing, living in a small apartment after selling everything he owned to pay legal fees. He sounded surprised to hear my voice. "Ethan," I said softly, "I found Grandpa's letters." He went quiet. "Does he hate me too?" "No," I whispered. "He forgave you before you even asked." He broke down crying. I didn't say anything, just listened. For once, there was no anger between us. Just silence. And understanding. When I hung up, the sun was rising over the lake. Light spilled through the windows, turning everything golden. I smiled and whispered, "It's yours too, Grandpa." It always was. A month later, I returned to the lake house one last time before leaving for the city. It wasn't to move out, it was to say goodbye to the ghosts that had kept me company. The air smelled like pine and rain. The wind rippled across the lake, carrying the soft sound of the piano keys I'd tuned the week before. For the first time, the house felt at peace, not haunted by lies or greed, but filled with quiet truth. I lit a candle by Grandpa's photo and whispered, "You were right. Love outlasts everything, even betrayal." Ethan wrote to me from the rehabilitation center last week. He's attending therapy, rebuilding, trying to start again. I wrote back, "Make Grandpa proud this time." Forgiveness didn't excuse what he did, but it freed me from carrying his burden. As I locked the door behind me, I looked once more at the lake, glowing gold in the evening light. This wasn't the ending I imagined. It was better. Because I didn't just win a house. I reclaimed my peace, my strength, and my family's story. And Grandpa's voice still lingered in my memory, soft and certain. Homes remember kindness, Joe. That's why this one will always smile. If someone ever betrays you, remember, you don't need revenge to win. You need truth, patience, and courage to keep your heart clean. Share your story below and never forget, some legacies aren't inherited, they're earned. Like, comment, and subscribe for more stories where truth finds its way home.